Hello there, this is my front ship full run video. If you don't know what front ship is, it's gold ship being put in the front position for her entire career. Gold ship is notable for being the pretty much only end closer in the game on launch, and her front runner stat is a G. Absolutely terrible. So what happens if I leave her as a G for her entire career? Well, this is actually kind of a lesson on strategy aptitudes. The main takeaway is that strategy aptitudes are kind of fake. Now, terrain aptitudes and distance aptitudes are very important. If you have a C in either of those on a race, you're almost guaranteed to lose. That's how punishing the penalty is. And even having a B makes things really hard. So why am I able to run Gold Ship as a G for her entire career as a front runner when she's designed to be an end closer? Well, this is where it gets a bit technical because the strategy aptitude actually is a wit modifier. You might be thinking this is bad because wit is your skill proc chance, and skills are important for winning races. However, for this modifier in particular, it does not affect your skill proc chances. Your skill proc chances still uses your base wit value, not the modifier after your strategy aptitude. Your strategy aptitude specifically modifies your wit for non-skill proc events, such as being rushed. Wit also has a couple of very other minor racing effects, such as increasing your speed on downhills, and it sort of has an effect on your Uma's pacing ability, but at the end of the day, it's all very minor effects. So since strategy aptitude affects wit but not skill procs, it is almost negligible. And that is why we're able to run Gold Ship, a notable end closer, as a front runner for her entire career and do just fine. Now, why would you choose to run Gold Ship as a front runner? Well, partly because it's kind of funny, and partly because it's actually kind of good. In your career races, you'll sometimes lose races strictly just from either getting boxed out and not having enough power, or having power and getting boxed out anyways just because of bad luck. And it happens more to Umas the further back in the strategy they are. By putting Gold Ship as a front runner, we're actually eliminating most of the chance that we're going to get boxed out, with the only drawback being very minor wit related changes, not even affecting our skill procs. If you take the risk first rewards, then it doesn't actually look that bad. However, the main reason that we want to run end closers as end closers is not because of the aptitude, but because of their skills. A lot of skills have positioning conditions, such as either being in the front or being in the back. And your Uma actually comes with a set of skills, usually related to their main aptitude. So that's a pretty big reason why you want to run your Uma in their preferred aptitude, for the skills that require it, but also the skills that have positioning as a proc requirement. That's why you wouldn't want to run Teo as a front runner, because her ult skill procs on passing other people. So if she's already in the front, then that severely reduces the chance that her ult will proc, which is why a pace chaser is generally pretty fine on her. You could even run her as a late surger if you really want her ult skill to have a better chance of proccing, and you wouldn't be crazy for that. However, you would lose access to her pace chaser skills that she comes with. As for this Gold Ship run, it wasn't a perfect victory. She did lose a couple of races here and there, and I'm not exactly sure to what, although I don't think it's very likely it's related to the aptitude debuffing her wit. It's probably just either bad luck or just straight up not having enough stats. There's a chance that being in a wrong strategy made her get rushed and she lost a bunch of wit, so it's possible that being in the wrong rating did play an effect, but at the end of the day, we did complete the run. We got a pretty respectable score at the end and a pretty solid stat line, so I guess the results speak for themselves. Even though she lost a couple of races, we also have to consider how many races she would have lost if we put her as an end closer instead, just from being boxed out power-wise. The thing is, we'll never really know unless we do tons and tons of runs for stats purposes, but I'd wager a guess that it's probably a pretty even balance of runs that she would have lost either way. But yeah, that's why I think putting your Umas as a front runner for their first year, and even maybe halfway through their second year, is not a bad idea. The main downside is your conditional skills, but as I've said before, when you don't have that many skills, it's not that big of a deal. So go ahead, put your Uma as a front runner. You don't have to worry about her being boxed out for a while, and then somewhere down the line, you can switch them back to their preferred style and take a bunch of skills that suit them. It's just what I like to do to make things a little more consistent in my runs, because losing races to getting boxed out is super tilting, since it can almost tank a run if it requires you to do several more races just to meet fan counts. Anyways, this gold chip run ended up being pretty solid. I would say the training luck was good. She didn't troll me that many times with her training restrictions. We got a lot of double rainbows throughout this entire run, leading to a very high speed stat, a pretty solid stamina stat, and an okay power, guts, and wit. I haven't mentioned it in my previous training guide, but a pretty good wit target is between 300 to 500 wit. Any more than that and it kind of becomes just a wasted stat that would be much better either on power or stamina. Yeah, she's still farming first places over and over, so being in the front as a front runner is doing wonders for her, especially due to the fact that I'm not really training her power that much. Being a front runner allows me to be greedy with my power skipping. That does mean that at the end of the day, if I put her as a PvP Uma, she's going to struggle with having very low power, but for the purposes of this meme run, it's pretty interesting that she's doing just fine. I would say if you put your Uma as a frontrunner for an extended period of time, try to make sure their ult doesn't rely on them being in the back or passing people, since ults are pretty good. Okay, she does troll me here by randomly getting Slacker and then failing the first infirmary, but it is what it is. Every run is going to have a little bit of bad luck, and some runs will have more or less of it. Just something that you have to deal with as a roguelike game. Yeah, I don't know if you've watched my Tokai Teo run, but the general goal for my trainings is to have a speed stat over 1100 and a stamina stat over 600, because this gives you a pretty good chance of getting 3-star blue sparks. I'm going to make a Spark guide in the future probably. I've been really enjoying making Uma Musume content the last few days, and I've gotten a lot of really nice comments, which is really great motivation. So thanks y'all for watching my stuff. I love being able to help people, teach people a couple things here and there, and making their Uma's dreams a reality. Because there's nothing worse than making your horse girl sad. Alright, going into the final few turns of the run, I would say all things considered, my speed and stamina stats are really strong, my power is a little lower than what I'd like, and my guts and wit are good enough that I don't really care about them. Wit being 300 is good enough. If you want to get into the nitty-gritty of the style aptitudes though, having a G as a style aptitude gives you a 90% wit debuff, which is what affects being rushed and all that. So you probably will get rushed if you're running a G style for an extended period of time. I mean, being rushed isn't all that bad, it's just a minor stamina hit, and if you got a ton of stamina, then you can just ignore it pretty much. Similarly, having an S in style is also pretty underwhelming, since a 10% boost to your wit is usually not that important. It would definitely be good if it boosted your wit's chance to proc skills, but it doesn't even do that. So a style S is pretty bad, at least compared to having an S in the surface type or the distance type, which makes your Uma go crazy fast. The URA Gauntlet, breezing through these just fine. I get a pretty lucky set of trainings here, not failing these relatively high chances. I take a final 24% chance speed training that passes, which means our front ship is over 1100 speed by the end of this. And we're going into the URA finale. She is speed. Whenever you can, it's good to end as front ship. A URA career with as low energy as possible. Here we go, entering the URA finale with our G in front running, and we don't even get a late start, even though our wit modifier is minus 90%. Yep, there's our front ship in the front pack with the other two front runners. Our skills are proccing just fine, even though our adjusted wit stat is probably like 30 at this point. with our minus 90% aptitude. Yep, another gold skill proccing. And with my speed and stamina stats, it's going to be pretty hard to lose this race. And final turn incoming. She's not boxed out due to being in the front pack. And here we go, final spurt. 1100 speed front ship. Yep, just zooming by, even gets the Teo ult. Funnily enough, she didn't even get rushed in this race, which means there was almost no negative effect that having a Jean front did to this race. Anyways, hope you enjoyed this kind of meme run and learned a thing or two about how important the strategy aptitude is. And maybe I've convinced you to try putting your Umas as a frontrunner in their make debuts. But thanks for watching, and I'll see you around.